Hello, my name is Clifton. Today I'll be talking about Frederick Douglass and how he helped with the black women's suffrage movement. Frederick Douglass was born a slave named Frederick Bailey. And this is the story of how he changed his name himself in freedom. This shows how complicated his life and his world always were. Frederick escaped to freedom in 1838 at the age of 20, and needing a new name in part as a declaration of a re-innovated self and eluding the slave catchers, he chose to become Frederick Douglass in honor of a character in a Walter Scott poem. Frederick Douglass settled in New York, where he sent for Anna Mary, a free black woman from Baltimore which he met while in captivity. She joined him and they were married in September of 1838. They would have 5 children together after they married. The young couple moved to New Bedford, Massachusetts, where they met Nathan and Mary Johnson, a married couple who were born free persons of color. It was the Johnsons who inspired the couple to take the surname Douglass after the character in the Sir Walter Scott poem, The Lady of the Lake. By 1843, Douglass had become part of the American Anti-Slavery Society's 100 Conventions Project. 6 months later, Frederick Douglass toured through the United States. Douglass was assaulted several times during the tour by those who opposed the abolishment movement. Frederick Douglass supported the cause of women after an 1848 convention at Seneca Falls in New York. In 1866, Douglass, along with Elizabeth Cady and Susan B. Anthony, founded the American Equal Rights Association. Frederick Douglass got into women's rights in the same year that he met his wife, in 1838. Frederick Douglass was invited to the first Women's Rights Convention, and his participation at the event revealed how committed he was to the women's suffrage movement. His work served as an inspiration to the civil rights movement of the 1960s. His name even became part of the 21st century political discourse, as President Donald Trump mentioned him in a speech for Black History Month in the year 2017. For your information, women and black men were not allowed to vote unless they took a literacy test and paid poll taxes. In some locations, poll taxes were $1.50, which equals to $13 today. In 2020, people were faced with their names being removed from the voting list, long lines, and limited voting options. Frederick Douglass was one of the few men that showed up to the pioneer Women's Rights Convention held at Seneca, New York in July of 1848. Frederick Douglass's support to the women's rights movement never wavered, even though he had a public disagreement with the leaders of the association about women's suffrage at the same time as black men, at voting rights for black men. However, Douglass remained a steadfast champion of the rights of women to vote. In April 1888, in Washington, D.C., Douglass gave a speech before the International Council of Women. I have included a portion of Frederick Douglass's speech. Frederick Douglass stated during his speech that there were many women who could speak much better than he could about their cause. He stated that no man, however gifted in thought and speech, can voice the wrongs as men cannot know and feel them. And she also knows, as well as he can know, what measures are needed to be addressed themselves. I grant all the claims at this point. She is her own best representative. We can neither speak for her, nor vote for her, nor act for her, nor be responsible for her. And the thing for men to do is in the promise is to get out of her way and give her the fullest opportunity to exercise all of her power inherent in her personality, or in her individual personality, and allow her to do it as she herself shall select to exercise them. Her right to be and to do is as full, complete, and perfect as the right of any man on earth. I say of her as I say of colored people: give her fair play and handoff. My name is Clifton, and thank you.
Jointly, my wife and I do the reenactments, and the reenactments have a number of purposes. One, to keep alive the legacy of my great-great-grandfather, but also to teach young people their heritage, and then we bring it current. I mean, we try and interpret what are the lessons, from slavery. And the first and foremost lesson is that each and every one of us has within ourselves the infinite capacity to transform ourselves for better, because as we think my ancestors, your ancestors, or those of you whose ancestors came here as indentured service, when they ended that period of servitude, they had nothing. And they were able to go forward, educate themselves, become the doctors and lawyers, so they transformed themselves. And we try and get young people to understand that they have an obligation to those who went before them and made so many sacrifices to become successful. And they have to have 100% participation in society, have to vote, have to study the documents, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all the documents that govern our lives. We have to understand society, have to get an education, and have to work hard and pay back that obligation.